You know, Bo, in 2021, real estate was hot. Houses were flying off the market, interest rates were dropping. It was the hot topic. In 2022, real estate stayed a hot topic because interest rates were rising. 2023, people felt like they couldn't buy a house because they couldn't afford one anymore. But in 2024, as the non real estate professional over here, I don't hear much about real estate in the media anymore. However, there are people right here in Madison who are still interested in buying or selling. Tell us today, September 2024, how can you help inform those who are interested in buying and selling in September of 2024?
Man, what a setup. And there's so much to unpack there.
Yeah.
So much happened in 2020 that led to 21 and 22. And again, our federal government made a bunch of choices on and pressure on the Fed to cut some interest rates would directly affect consumers. And so what's happened now, everybody knows what inflation is. Those are the hot words now instead of real estate. Inflation, inflation. And so because of that, we haven't seen a cut. In fact, we've seen a raise now. But it is the middle of September when we're recording this, and probably by the time this comes out, we're going to know if the Fed is going to cut rates. And what I mean by that is this. There is a very large assumption that in the next 2 to 3 days, the Fed will announce some form of rate cut. It could be 0.25, it could be 0.5. We don't know.
Okay.
There's a bunch of assumptions we can make.
Okay.
And what does that do? So how does that actually affect somebody? Everybody goes, well, I get it. It affects my like my buying power, and it affects my mortgage rate. You're right.
Yeah.
It does. But what nobody really also realizes, it affects everyone's. And so what that means is buyers who've been sitting back and waiting
Okay.
might decide that now is the time to get in. They might decide to wait there's 2 more meetings this year from the Fed. There is
Okay.
an expectation that they will continue to cut until they get the rate to an approximation of an average 30-year conventional rate between 5 and 5.5%. Right now, today, we're sitting on 7, maybe 6.5, depending on where you're at and what your credit is. And so that's a pretty big jump. That's a lot of change for the people. And so here's what I want you to know. Last month, or this month, today, we have 535 houses on the market. We only have 136 pending. Not really that big of a deal. We'll talk about that here in a minute. There's 59 days on the market. However, our average price is still hovering around 430,000.
Okay.
What does that actually mean to you, the buyer?
Yeah.
What that means is this: houses are staying on the market longer.
Okay.
We're not moving quite as many when we're only seeing 136 pending. But why? Erica, you have 3 children. I have 2. What happened last month that we've all been dealing with and
We went
changing that
we
might
went back
possibly have slowed down? Back to school.
back
Every
to
year,
school.
yeah, back to school slows us down almost unanimously in Madison because it is such an integral part of our livelihood, right?
Yeah.
And not just back to school. See, we started back to school, swim team, dance, and baseball.
Yeah.
We're tired. Like Erica, you're tired. Yeah, I mean it's how it goes. So a lot of people don't want to go look at houses on the weekend,
You're right.
right? And so, especially let's say in July you were thinking about it, but gosh, we're getting ready for school. So August came and you're like, I'm not going to go. And gosh, I've been hearing on the news the Fed might cut rates. So you're gonna wait.
Yeah.
Everyone will go, well, that house is 60 days on the market on average,
Yeah.
so it'll probably still be there. So why not wait?
That's interesting.
That's my guess of an assumption of the mindset of a normal buyer. Now, the average seller is probably going, but why do they buy my house? What's going on? I'm really nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. However, you got to also realize, Mr. Seller, rates are at 7%. You do have to realize, Mr. Seller, that the average price is $430,000. A 7% rate at $430,000. That's a lot.
It is.
That's a lot. We're heading into an election cycle that we'll probably talk about a little bit more next month. That changes a lot of the way people view real estate.
Yeah.
I was just telling you earlier that there is a stat that says seasonal changes in real estate on a normal year are like 10%, but on an election year is 15%. Because people are waiting. We're waiting
Yeah.
to see. Well, like I said, next time we'll go through some of those data points. All that to simply say, what can I do to help you? I can tell you what I've told you since the day we started this. Start talking to an agent. Be ready to move. Get pre-approved. Be ready to move when the time is right, and you find the house you want.
Can I ask you a question?
Anything.
It seems like this actually could be a really good time for a few to buy because you may have sellers who are beginning to feel panicky because their expectations weren't met that their houses were going to sell quick-ish. And also, if people are waiting for rates to drop, then they're waiting for rates to drop, which means there's going to be more buyers that enter the game. So you could actually potentially negotiate a great deal. Yes, you would still have that higher interest rate potentially, but you could always refi. But it seems like there's probably some good negotiating power right now.
Erica, you have come such a long way. Look at you.
You've taught me something. If you listen to this every month, you're going to learn something from Beau.
No, you're dead on right. Like, I refied a house earlier this year to pull some money out of it and go invest in some other things.
Yeah.
So on my investment properties. And I got a message from my loan officer a week ago. He said, hey, I have to wait till December with you, but you close at this. We can already close at this. And by December, you're probably going to be able to close again. So I'm probably refining again and will save myself $200 on my mortgage.
Wow.
Why don't I do that?
Yeah.
When I just did, everybody's like, why wouldn't you? Well, it's just playing that game. It's playing that numbers game. That's an investment property. It's a little different when it's your home.
Yeah.
But we do see that situation kind of arising here where people are going, hey, I can actually negotiate this. And
Yeah.
you can. You actually can.
Yeah.
And that's something that I encourage buyers to do. Hey, go find that house that's been on the market 200 days because they are there and see what you can do. They
Yeah.
want somebody to work with them. Go find the house that's been on the market 60 days. They're nervous, just like you would be. Erica, I think about your situation a lot. Y'all were building a home, and then we got ready and we sold your house you were living in at that time.
Mm-hmm.
What happened if in between that you had signed a contract and it's a year-long build,
Yeah.
and the market does kind of what it's doing now? You're going to be much more desperate to sell your house because you have a new one coming.
Yes.
And that is set in stone. And so I think you're seeing a lot of buyers in, especially in Madison. If you throw a rock and you can hit some kind of construction.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so because of that, I think you have some people going, oh, I've got a house coming up in 2 months. I need to make sure we've got it covered. And so
Yeah.
I think you're seeing that a lot, actually.
That's interesting. Question for you. I'm going to put you on the spot for just a minute, but I know you'll
Okay.
have an answer. Let's speak to the couple who they have had it in their house. They're ready to sell. Okay.
Yeah.
But they're not ready today. September, they're overwhelmed. The holidays are coming up. They know they want to start thinking about selling, but they're overwhelmed. What can they do now in the next month or so to start positioning themselves to sell their home when they feel ready?
That is a great question. And very few sellers take my advice on what I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
But I would heavily encourage this. One, I would call a home inspector and pay him the $500 to $600 to inspect my home.
Okay.
Because if I've got 3 to 4 months before
Mm-hmm.
I can go ahead and fix 80% of the problems so that when my house goes on the market, that second phase, that after we're under contract and we have a request for repairs, that list is now going to be this long instead
Yeah.
of that long. And
Yeah.
it helps you to know your house and know the goods and the bad with it. So one, I would do that. Two, I would go ahead and get pre-approved in some form or fashion because you need to know where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
Not just where you're going to go. Start figuring out what your money can hold, and then keep that relationship with that lender open, that as the rates potentially drop,
Yeah.
you can call and go, hey, what does this change about mine? It means you can afford $50,000 more, whatever it might be. And then three, I bet you can't guess this one. I would go ahead and hire a real estate agent.
Yeah.
I would go ahead because they can see your house with fresh eyes.
Yeah,
What you see as the room you brought your child home in for the first time, we see as a bright pink room with rainbows on it that could exclude buyers.
you're
And I
so
know
right.
everybody's like, that's mean. Look, we're not trying to be mean. We're trying to sell a house. And
That's
if
right.
you walk into the couple who has struggled to get pregnant, that could hurt them. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
it is a psychological game. It
yeah,
is not saying that we make you do anything, but
right.
we want to tell you the whole house. We want to present the whole picture to you so that you can fully understand what you need. Please just do me one favor. Don't just bring a real estate agent in and get their advice and then leave them alone. Hire them. Go ahead and sign the agreement with them. Say, hey, I'm ready to go. Interview several. I'm not saying just pick one. Interview several and then go hire them and say, we're not going to list till January. I did that. You gave me a client last year. We went and met. I think I met with them in January and they said they were ready to list in March or vice versa. I would have to go back and look at the dates. And we got the house ready. We told them what to do. 1 week before we got, I mean, it was the easiest, like, oh, yep, now
Yeah.
it's time to do it. We had it on calendars and we did it. It's just easier that way.
Yeah, every real estate agent watching this is like, yes, say it louder for the people in the back. Like, if you're gonna have somebody come out and start having that conversation with you, go ahead and say, and honestly, we did that with you. You were the first person we called when we considered buying our home, and then we hired you as our agent to help us walk through that whole process. We weren't just gonna get your advice and not actually
Yeah.
work through it with you. So that was a great scenario. We could talk all day about this.
Good.
Looking forward to October. Because
Yes.
as we get closer to the election, just inevitably and objectively, there is going to be some kind of effect on real estate. If you want to
Always.
talk more about this, reach out to Beau. He is the president of Redstone Realty Solutions, incredibly knowledgeable. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and we'll see you in
Thanks, guys.
October. Bye bye.